Okay, so it's time for an update on the box truck build project. If you're new to the channel or you haven't checked out seen the rest of the build series, we picked up this 2014 GMC Savannah 3500 cutaway box truck, or box van, if you will. We're turning it into a tiny home on wheels, or a DIY camper, or liveaboard camper, whatever you want to call it. Again, and it's been over a week since we put up a video because we had a little bit of a slowdown with the door project here. It's a 4+ day door project. I say 4+ because it literally took us 4 days to get it built and hung. Then we added off one more time to do some work on it and to, seal everything up and whatnot. We didn't stain it. We thought about staining it. We decided not to do that. We instead went with a polyurethane, left the wood natural color, went with polyurethane on it. That's sealed up nicely. We've also had, unfortunately, plenty of weather delays. It's been a wet spring here in Wyoming. I don't know if it's been the worst spring I've ever seen in Wyoming, but it's definitely not been the nicest spring I've seen in Wyoming from a weather perspective. The only good news is hopefully this makes sure there's plenty of snow in the mountains, and maybe we won't burn nearly 1 million acres again this year like we did last summer. That was unfortunate to see. So anyways, we're going to go over some of the frequently asked questions, or questions and comments that are coming up a lot in the YouTube comments in this video. Then tomorrow, as I'm recording this, is Tuesday. So Wednesday, I think it's Tuesday. So Wednesday, tomorrow, as I'm recording this, I'm going to be putting a roof rack on here, or at least starting the roof rack process. So we have more build stuff coming, and we have been puttering with some other little things in here. We'll show you in just a minute. But one of the things, overall things I want to mention before we dive right into this is planning a build like this and executing a build like this is a little bit like GCing a house build. That is, if you're building a house, you have to have an architect who designs the thing, or maybe you buy pre-built plans, but somebody has to design it and figure out where everything's going to be and how it's going to be designed and what materials you need and everything. And then you have a general contractor who may or may not do all the building himself, but the GC is going to oversee all the other specialties and all the other projects that have to happen. So you need site grading work done, you need electric and water running from the city, sewer running from the city, you need a foundation, you need to frame the walls, you need a roof, you need electrical, plumbing, interior drywall and stuff. So many things, right? And that's not even a full list, but stuff, flooring, painters. So you need all these things. You can't have the electricians and plumbers come in before you frame the walls. And you can't have the walls framed before you have a foundation. So you got to do it all in sequence. And that's one of the things with some of this stuff, is that there's a lot of things we know about and we have ideas about, but we're not at the point where it's time for them to get done yet. So we'll dive in here and I'll show you around, and we'll take a look at something. Before we go in though, the door has had some questions and everything. So among them, why a DIY door and why a door on the right instead of in the middle? As far as DIY, because we're only just over 6 feet tall and I could not find an exterior door that would fit. Any standard modern exterior door would also be wider, which we didn't really want to do because this is plenty wide enough for us. So we didn't really want to go wider. We could have, but we still would have been too short. And that means I had to cut it down. And taking an inch or two off a door isn't usually a big deal. Most doors are 80 inches though, plus you need a larger rough opening. So we'd have been taking 8 inches, 9 inches off the door, and that would be concerning if we would compromise the structural integrity of the door if it was still going to work. So I hunted online. I found a couple appropriately width doors that looked like I probably could cut them down because they were old, but they were like literally in Nebraska and Colorado, and I just didn't want to drive that far, so we built our own. It's working perfectly. I think it's going to work out fine long haul. If it doesn't, maybe we'll put an RV door on here or something eventually, but RV doors are hard to source, so you have to get them on, unless you live somewhere you can get this stuff. We don't. We'd have to order it online, and they're expensive and they can be difficult to actually get delivered to you. I've seen some horror stories about that on videos, but $600 or $700, $800 is going to be the minimum starting point for an RV door, and I don't know about the quality of them still, but we got an RV door and I just had to disassemble it and rebuild things. So we went with a DIY one instead of an RV one, but maybe that'll change in the future. Also, why on the right? And that was the question. Well, geez, you got your ramp here and everything, don't you want it in the middle? Well, first of all, there is a ramp there. And it crossed my mind, gee, and we originally had planned on putting the door in the middle. I don't think I ever would have used the ramp to get in and out of the truck. But it was there. Then I noticed my father was over, we were playing with it, and it doesn't do anything. And a closer inspection reveals that somebody welded it into place at some point in the past. I don't know which owner did that. It was probably not Hearst Penske, which was the original owner of this truck. But then it was owned by a couple of regional haul companies up in Montana, and I don't know which one of them did it, but somebody welded it shut. I don't know why. I don't know why, if they didn't want it or if it was broken, they didn't just remove it and throw it away, but there it sits. It just looks good, but it doesn't work anyways. But beyond that, then Melanie noted we have a nice heavy step bumper here that we're actually using right now. We also have a tow hitch. There's a cutaway here to allow for the ball and the hitch. So with the door in the middle, we'd have nowhere to step to get in and out of the truck. Now, to be sure, I could have, fixed that, but then we wouldn't be able to tow with this truck. And even though I'm not planning on towing with this truck, I like the idea that I can tow with this truck in the future if our situation dictates it. So we moved it to the side, and from there, the right side just made more sense. For one thing, if we're parked curbside along a street or something, we want to get in the back, we can do that from the curb side, not from the street side where traffic is. That's just a basic safety thing. And we've already got a handlebar here, a grab bar to hold on to. And yes, we'll be adding another one right over here. I think of that every time my father comes over to check on the process, and I watch him have to climb up in here, but it's not bad for me right now. But yeah, we will be doing that sooner or later. Another thing that comes up a lot about steps. Are you going to put steps on? It'll be hard to get in and out. I don't think it's hard to get in and out personally, but that's just me, okay? So it's not hard for me to get in and out. It's a little bit sketchy. I did have one time when I missed my footing coming down out because this bumper doesn't really come out as far as it could. We're going to do something about steps. It's just not a first order priority thing. For some reasons we'll get into inside too, but we got to figure out what we want to do with steps and how exactly we want to do it, and they'll get done. But for now, we just got a step stool out here and it works fine. We'll get to it eventually. Even the grandkids have no problem climbing up in there. We're talking about kicking around the idea of like some kind of a little bit of a deck on the back too. Again, is it fixed? Does it hinge? There's just all kinds of things we got to figure out. And I can't just put steps on until I figure out what we're doing with all this stuff. And I don't love, you've probably all seen the truck camper like steps that are like the aluminum things that are, accordion style. They come out. I don't really want to go that route. They're kind of expensive, and I don't like the fact that I want a handrail if I got steps, because it's just too easy for somebody to fall. And they seem a little flimsy to me. Maybe they'd hold up long term. I don't know. It's definitely coming. It's just, we got to figure out what we're doing. It's a little further down the road. But that's enough for outside. Let's go inside, get out of this nasty, nasty weather this morning. And this is one of them days you say nice weather if you're a duck. So let's go inside and take a look around. Oh, welcome to my parlor, said the spider to the fly. This door look beautiful or what? Melanie spent a good bit of time putting 2 coats of polyurethane on it. I'm going to lock this. We were talking about whether we should actually bring the Mr. Heater out. We got a spare one, portable buddy, and hook it up. But we're not going to be out here too long today. But it's like 30 something, 39 degrees, 38 degrees with a real feel of 30. It's been raining all morning. It all rained all day yesterday. It's nasty. Anyway, the door is done. It's working great. We did put in a view window. It's an acrylic panel. I can't remember. I think we talked about that in the door. Somebody was commenting that we didn't show much of the metal installation, and that is true. We did not. That's just because it was dragging on to 4 days, frankly, and I was just trying to get it done. Some of that may get redone at some point. We'll try and film it and show you if it does at the time. One of the challenges with a box truck build like this, and we'll talk about this more in future videos, some of the challenges, the things that maybe you wouldn't think of if you haven't done this. If you don't have to store materials, like we do not, all our extra materials are either in the vehicle we're trying to build or they're outside. So the metal's a little mismatched. I'm hoping you get some patina on it, as they say, with sun and dirt and all the rest of it getting on it. Right now it's a little bit mismatched because the first piece, we had 2 pieces on hand. We thought they were going to be enough. Turns out they weren't. And they had come from 2 different lots from the van project, and they're just a little bit different. And then the metal we got again is different. So you go back to the Home Depot or Menards or Lowe's or wherever you're going, and sometimes they've run out of what you got before and you have to get something different. Or even if it's technically the same thing as a different lot and it looks a little different, and they clearance stuff out and change the exact things they're carrying all the time. So sometimes you can't find exactly the same thing if you have to get it in smaller quantities because you have nowhere to store it. So, and if the door is on, it works great. We've got handles on both inside and outside. I had mentioned we were using some cool ones we got from Menards on clearance, or vintage look with red and green type paint on them. Those are going to go somewhere else because we ended up not using them here. Regular deadbolt. We may put a regular latch on in addition at some point, but for now, it's got a deadbolt so it can be opened from inside and outside and secured. It's solid. The metal on the outside, by the way, also serves to harden the door and make it stronger. So it's a pretty solid door. It would not be easy to access from outside without a key because you'd be standing on a bumper this big trying to shoulder or kick a door, and that's probably not going to work too well. We'll have a curtain or something here at some point. It's just, again, not a super priority. So that's the inside of the door anyways. Okay, now, next up, we look at the pass-through. And I mentioned this in detail in a previous video, so I'm not going to go into a lot of details in this one, but we did enlarge it since the last time we talked about it on video. I made it a little bigger. It comes all the way out to the seat now. It's going to come all the way out to the seat on this side as soon as we get over to a junkyard and find one. That's on the works too. I've been waiting for the weather to get a little better because I don't want to go traipse around a junkyard in this mud. So this is as high as we can go because we're literally, this row of bolts here is literally where the cab is bolted to the box. So we can't go any higher because that's the roof of the cab right there. And that's, some box trucks have a high, this one, the truck, if you see through the floor there, the floor of the box on the back is actually quite a bit higher than the floor in the cab. And that's just the way this sits. And so that's as high as we can go. We've gone as wide as the seats. Now, Van Life Meow, fellow down in Nebraska, Dave, I think, he's doing an amazing job on his build with a U-Haul truck, former U-Haul truck. It's a shorter one, and he cut his all the way out on a nice angle, and that looks pretty cool because it makes it wide open to the front, and so you get the light, it feels bigger, and all of that. The catch for us is we got the seats there, and we're going to have 2 seats, and we're going to put closets here. We think we are anyways, in the back. So it wouldn't do me any good to open it up more because we're going to have closets here. So it wouldn't do any good. But it is bigger. It's much easier to pass through now than it was. And, you know, pretty simple to come back and forth. And this is not really intended to be our primary means of ingress and egress from the truck. That's the back door. This is just, so we can get back and forth when we need to, or when we're pulling in somewhere to camp and just want to hop in the back, or if we're traveling and pull over to rest area and want to just hop in the back to do something. So it's a lesser thing, and it works pretty well. Although I'll admit my 7-year-old granddaughter goes through there a lot easier than I do. All right, what's the next on the list inside here? Windows. Yeah, we got a lot of content. You got to put windows in. We are definitely putting windows in. This is back to my GC thing about planning things, right? I think we're going to go with RV windows. We're checking some out that I think will work well. I've seen some other builds use them, Live Simple, Live Free, use these same windows on their box truck build. I don't know where they're going exactly yet. I know sort of where we're going to put some windows, but I don't know exactly because we have to get our furniture in. And how big of a closet are we building here, right? Are we doing 12 inches, which is pretty narrow, but leaves more room here? Are we doing 18 inches? Are we doing 24 inches? And we got them marked out on the floor, by the way. We've been putting tape down on the floor. So 1 foot closet, 1.5 foot closet, 2 foot closet. What does that have to do with anything? Well, when you come to windows now, we have to figure out, do we want one by the bed here? And we know we want one down here, which is going to be Melanie's, I call it her nook, her little area for lounging and sewing and all the other things she likes to do during the day. So she'll have a chair here, and we're going to want a window down here. But I don't know exactly where I want it because we haven't got the furniture. How big is the closet? How big is the bed? And then the kitchen's going down here. And yeah, so where do we want the window exactly? We don't know till we get a little furnishings in. So the windows kind of have to wait. Coming over on this side, I'm going to have a little work area here. I don't know if I want to call it my desk or my work area or my studio or area or whatever, but there's going to be a window here because I like to look out the window when I'm supposed to be working. And we're not even sure if the desk is going this way, or Melody had mentioned maybe I should put it in this way so I can look out the back door when it's open when we're parked somewhere. So that might be a thing, right? I like to park in nature as much as I can and have a nice view out the window while I'm working. There's only once, despite all the Instagram stuff you see, one time in all my 10 years on the road traveling and working out of vehicles as a digital nomad and everything else, one time I camped on a white sand beach I worked on a white sand beach. I wasn't camped there. I worked on a white sand beach, spent the day parked there in Mississippi. That only happened once. But whatever the view is, I like to be able to look outside. So we're putting in windows, but we cannot put in windows until we're sure where they're going. And if we go with the RV windows, they're hard to, we got to figure out the wall thickness, and we got to figure out, they have these crazy curves on them. They're rounded corners, and that makes it harder to trim them inside. So it's actually, if our wall thickness is right relative to the window, it's actually easier to put in our insulation and put on our wall covering, whatever we're doing, and then to cut it out all at one time. And then we have the curves right. Otherwise, we put it in and we're gonna have to like shim it and everything to make it the right thickness. And then I'm gonna try and trim around it and it's all curved and it's not gonna come out as good. So when exactly they'll go in, I'm not sure yet, but there is a benefit to us to waiting. But we also gotta figure out where exactly we want them, because once I cut a hole through this, there's no going back. So, so the windows are coming. I'm thinking maybe up to 4, and we're gonna have either a window or possibly a vent right here too. I'm just not, again, we're not exactly sure yet, but that's coming. We may still go with the less expensive windows from Menards, the smaller windows that are like just normal household windows. I know it'll be fine in the back. I've seen people do it. The idea with the RV windows with a curve and the doors is where they're curved is the walls flex in RVs, and that's supposed to make them less likely to crack. I don't know how much flex will happen with this particular wall. A lot of box trucks are built with plywood walls. This is actually some kind of high density plastic like an HDPE. Maybe the honeycombed HDPE, I'm not positive. They were coming out with it around this time. And it has a thin layer of sheet metal on the inside and on the outside. I don't know how much it'll flex, so it may not be a problem. My son works in the oil industry here in Wyoming, and actually all my boys do. Well, my oldest son was telling me he runs a lot of operations for him, and all their cargo trailers now, they're putting regular pedestrian doors in the front, on the side, and they're putting regular windows in from Menards, and they're not having a problem with them. So it may not be a problem with this design. I'm not sure, so we might try that, we might not. All to be determined still, but they'll be coming soon. All right, the roof and the ceiling, a lot of comments about this. People like, oh, you can't put solar on there, blah, blah, blah. Okay, there's probably is a box truck out there somewhere that has a solid plywood ceiling with sheet metal over it. That's not very common. Most of the box trucks are going to have these roof bows like this, and you're going to have either a single sheet fiberglass roof or a single sheet metal that's only like 40 thousandths of an inch thick. It's like a little heavier than tin foil, basically. And that's a single sheet, and they're just sitting on these roof bows. And they'll, when the wind blows, they'll rattle a little and everything. Neither one of those are you going to put solar panels directly on. You probably could put flexibles on and just tape them down, but you're not putting rigid panels up there on either roof style. So we're putting a roof rack on. That's going to be the day after I'm recording this video. So second week of May, we'll be doing that. The weather's supposed to be turning tomorrow and staying good. So we'll be working on that. Then we'll be putting solar panels on that. But if you have a lightweight sheet metal roof over these roof bows, you're still going to have to do a roof rack to put rigid panels up there. So that's just the way it is with these things. As far as the fact that it's fiberglass, this is one of these, right? Everything is trade-offs. The reason these are getting popular, and this was a moving truck originally, but the reason they're getting popular with cargo trucks is because, and box trucks and stuff, is because during the daylight hours at least, you have some light coming through. And if you pull into a parking lot, or backing up to a loading dock, there's probably outside lights. at night anyways, you get some light through, so you don't have to worry as much about the electric lights. This is where there was one in here at some point. It's long since been removed. That was one in this entire 16 plus foot by 8 foot box. So it's hard to see when you're cargo in. So they use these things a lot. The catch is, in the summer, it's like a greenhouse. The sun's beating through. We're going to be covering much of the roof with solar panels and a deck to put our Starlink on the roof and all that stuff. Now, we are using the flat mount for the roof from Veritas Vans over in California. They sent us one that we showed that in our video from Custer State Park over in South Dakota recently. So a lot of the roof will be covered. So right now we're not doing anything with this. The way we're doing the walls and the ceiling, we can put in the ceiling after the walls are in. So a lot of times you have to put the ceiling in first. The way we're doing it, the ceiling can go in later. So we may very well end up insulating part or all of this and putting up ceiling panels. But right now we're taking advantage of the light and we're just waiting the diffused natural light, and we'll see on that. But we'll be coming back to that in the future. But there's a good chance we'll be insulating and covering much, if not all of it. We'll just see how that goes. All right, insulation, we are insulating. You can kind of see, not the best, I suppose, but maybe this is a good one to show you on what we're doing. This 2x3 on the outside is part of the framing for the wall because it's supporting this top piece. So this won't be here on all of them. What we're doing with insulation, we're putting in, and this is pretty common to these trucks, this is a fairly hard wood, and it's attached to brackets that are bolted through the sidewall of the truck. So we're leaving these on. What we've been doing, we have to loosen them, and then we can put a 1x3, in this case. I may use some 1x2s on other spots, but for this one we use 1x3s to match our framing lumber for this wall. 1x3 all the way down, we glue it, stick it to the wall, and then we retighten this piece down, screw through this into the 2x3, so it's all secured together. And then we use shorter pieces of 1x3. So we do a second layer of that, and that brings it out 1.5 inches, which is also, these are 1.5 inches from the wall, so we got a nice flush surface there, and that's what our wall board, our interior wall coverings are going to be attached to. So it'll be like this, and we can we'll have these probably every 2 feet. The insulation is going in between them, much like it did back here. This is just a standard, very traditional 2x4 framed wall, 16-inch on center, 14.5-inch stud bays. And so the insulation is going in just like this. It'll be the same on the exterior walls and on the front wall, but it'll only come out 1.5 inches to right here. So use 1.5 inch foam. We'll fill that in with some framing so that we have things to attach our wall boards to, and shelves, because we are planning on putting some shelves in here. We'll get to that though in a moment. Okay, that's the insulation. Flooring. Right now we got a plywood floor. So we're doing 2 different flooring materials in here, floor covering materials in here. In the back here where Melanie's standing, or it's the front of the truck, I guess, where Melanie's standing, we're putting in some laminate. It is either bamboo or bamboo look-alike laminate. Came out of my parents' house when we were remodeling that, and there was a weird section that we couldn't match it because it's old flooring. So instead of trying to match in something different where there was tile that needed to be replaced, we took it out, put in whole new laminate on the entire floor that all matched. So that's going in here. This is a smaller area than their living room. So that's going in here. And then at least in the entryway and back here, we're using peel and stick vinyl, just like we did in the van. On the back part of that, it looked really nice, very affordable. It's 50-something cents per square foot. I don't know exactly how far that'll come up because it depends how far down the laminate comes, because we're working off a limited supply. We can't get more of it. So we'll see how far down we can get with that. And then somewhere between this point here, the tile will end and the laminate will start, or the kitchen's going here. So we might come in for, pass to the matching with the kitchen counter with vinyl, and then again laminate behind it. So you'll see all that coming up somewhat soon. We'll be getting to it as soon as we can. Again, there's just lots of stuff to figure out here. Storage. We're going to have some shelves like On the front, well, I think we'll have a shelf. We're gonna probably have some, this is the entryway here, the door swings. We have like a 6 or 7 inch space here. So I think we're gonna be putting some shelves in along here. Got to finish insulating first, but then, so there'll be like maybe 6 or 7 inch shelves on this wall that'll be like behind the door when it's open. That'll be, give us some storage there. We're doing some storage in here. I'll get to this more in the layout, but there's gonna be some storage in this area. The kitchen's going here, so we'll have, you know, traditional cabinets. We got junk all over the place, even when we got it picked up, because the weather's been so bad. We moved all our stuff inside, and the table's back outside now. But I was painting the stuff for the roof rack. But so we've been working inside, cutting stuff inside and everything, trying to stay out of the weather. So the kitchen's going here. We ran out of wall covering, so. And we're using this here because it's not gonna, it'll be covered anyways. We're gonna have like a backsplash behind the kitchen counter. So kitchen counter, cabinets underneath, and we're gonna do a row of cabinets, a short row of cabinets above the top here. We're still figuring out all the details. We got an electric oven we're gonna be using that we use extensively, so that's going in here somewhere. We do not do a microwave. We have one in the trailer and it's been used about 3 times in the 4 years I've owned it. Maybe a few more than that, but not a lot. We don't use a microwave, so we're not putting one in. We do have an electric oven and it's got a convection option on it. So that's going in here somewhere. It won't be sitting on a counter. It'll either be like on a shelf or maybe up here and then partial cabinets. It's all being figured out still. That's one of those, there's so many decisions to make. So we'll have storage there. Anyways, we'll have under bed storage going too. And at some point, outside, I'm not going back outside because it's nasty out there. We'll have some storage boxes this side, outside of this wall. So the door is here and then the way over. There's a lot we got to figure out there. Again, if we're doing propane or diesel for heat, we got to make sure we're able to store the propane cylinders or the diesel fuel. We want to put it outside. That'll be more of the storage wall. And eventually, there's a real good chance we'll put some underbody storage boxes, toolboxes, through where the skirting is on the side. We can get those, and again, that's just a further down the road thing. That's not as much of a priority as getting this thing usable. All right, layout, the basic layout. Okay, well, Melanie's already standing there, so we'll start back here. The door and the entryway. Like I said, some storage here. This was originally, I was going to end the wall here, so this was just going to be open. And then I realized I needed something to secure this wall to, so we ended up going all the way across. So we have a little archway. We'll see how fancy I get with the archway, but it will be trimmed in. And we got our entryway, and over here, because we don't have a wall yet, you can see me while I'm in the bathroom and our little storage closet area. So that's all going in here. Exactly the layout, I'm still tweaking. I got some ideas. We got to start putting stuff in and see how it works. And that's getting a little more complicated than we were thinking we might do originally for reasons I'll get to in just a minute. But this is the, bathroom and storage area, kitchen here, Melanie's little nook here, workspace here, and then sleeping area and some closets in the front towards the cab. Then of course the cab is in the front. That's the basic layout. I mean, the little things, you move something an inch in a van or in a box truck build or anything, and it messes up everything. So it's hard. We're got this in. We just had to go in. We'll get a kitchen counter in very soon, and we'll start working on the sleeping area. And then we're kind of like meet in the middle, basically, because we don't want to do all the way from this end and find out we don't have enough room for a bed anymore or something. So that's how we're going with that. Insurance, that's a good question on box trucks, right? Some states even will get you on with insurance or registration on a 1-ton pickup or a van. Wyoming's not one of those states. So we bought this thing. We had Geico for the van and the car, the Prius, and I added this on, no problem at all. It was the same price as the van, all done. Went down and registered it, no problem at all registering it in Wyoming. This is Wyoming, everybody drives 1-ton trucks here, so it's not even anything unusual here. Geico eventually sent us a letter and said, hey, so we reviewed this and we don't actually cover that kind of vehicle, the box truck. So I'm not really surprised. I thought we might have problems when I insured it in the first place, but we didn't. But then they said, yeah, you're covered for now, but we're not, when the policy runs out, we're not going to renew the box truck. We'll renew your van and car, but not the box truck. So we're looking at our options on that. There's only two, really. And so I want to point this out. We're going to go into it in a lot more detail in a special video when I tell you how we get it solved. But real briefly, if you're looking at box trucks or schoolies or any of these things, you got to realize that they're commercial vehicles and that can bring some challenges. And it's going to depend on your state where you're registering it, and also on your insurance company, because different insurance companies have different criteria for things. So one option is getting RV coverage on it. We are looking into that. And the other option is putting commercial coverage on it. And we're looking into that as well. We do have a couple of businesses, so there's no problem for us to get commercial insurance, but commercial insurance tends to be quite a bit more expensive than regular insurance. The RV insurance is cheaper, on par with regular auto insurance, maybe cheaper than regular auto insurance, but you do have to do certain things to satisfy the insurance company. Now, getting your title switched from a truck title to, or bus title to an RV title is a whole different process. Some of the things are going to be exactly the same you have to do, but that's going to depend on your state, what that process is and what exactly they require. And usually it's going to be an inspection. What it's looking like for the insurance companies, there's a certain number of things we're going to have to do to satisfy them that it's being used as an RV. And then it looks like we're just going to have to send them photos to show what we're doing or what we have done. Some of those things include a bed or a sleeping area. You usually have to have an permanently installed refrigerator. You usually have to have a permanently installed stove, a permanently installed sink. You only have to have one as far as I've ever seen. Nobody cares about two, but you have to have one. You have to have your water source, and you have to have your electric figured out, and you have to have a bathroom. Now, they can vary depending on what they'll accept there. Some of them were happy with no shower, and they'll accept a camp toilet or a composting toilet or a cassette toilet. Others want a little more detail. So it's going to depend, again, on your insurance company and on the state if you're trying to get the title changed over as well. Right now, we're only concerned with the insurance. We're already registered and happy with it, so we're not worried about that. But that may mean we have to put in a few things we didn't plan on necessarily putting in just to satisfy the insurance if we go the RV route. So we'll have a whole video coming up with all those details, but for now, it's just something to think about. And it's one more reason why things like windows in the wall are a little down the list, because we got to figure out certain other things in the next month or so we can get our insurance squared away if we want to go with the RV insurance. If we go to commercial, doesn't matter. We can do whatever we want with it for that. Okay, HVAC, heating and air conditioning. We have a Mr. Heater portable buddy that in the house that I met in the trailer that mentioned we could bring out, but we didn't bother doing it today because it's supposed to be nice tomorrow, and then now we're up in the 80s in a few days from now, so we don't really need it out here right now. There's a good chance we'll go with a diesel heater again, and if so, I'll install the diesel tank outside. We'll have the heater inside. The fuel pump will be outside too, so it'll be quieter when it runs. Considering our experience with the van, I know it'll heat this thing no problem. So that's one option. The other option is we have given some thought to a really slick Dickinson propane stove, but that has to be mounted on a wall somewhere. We have to figure out again where we're putting it, where's the windows, where's the heater, where's all these things, right? So one of those two probably will be going in. At some point, we're going to have to figure out air conditioning. We've looked into whether we're going to try and get enough solar and batteries to run it on solar. I don't know that we're going to do that. We may just end up going with plugging into shore power when we need air conditioning, or going to the mountains and we don't have to worry about air conditioning. So that's to be determined still. It's a pretty good sized thing. So even with a good insulation, we're going to need a fairly powerful system. I've had 5,000 BTU in a couple of vans and it was inadequate. I mean, it'd be okay if it was only 80 out, but it's only 80 out. I didn't need the air conditioning. And when it gets up into the 90s and it's really, or above 100 and it's really hot, the 5,000 BTU did not keep up even in a van. So we're not even trying it in the box truck, even though we'll have better insulation. We're just not even trying. So you kind of get up into that 8 to 12,000 BTU. 12,000 is probably ideal. And you really need quite a system to run air conditioning very long on that if you're using solar. So we may end up just plugging in for that, but that's all to be determined. But we have to decide, do we want just a window unit, right, and do a through wall installation, or do we want to, which we don't really favor, or a portable one? My parents have one in their living room that's a portable and it plugs in, but you do have to vent those. You still have the hose you got to vent out, and that does a really respectable job in their place, so that probably would be adequate for this. Or we can do a mini split system, and that's nice because your compressor is outside and it's quite a bit quieter, and they're really probably the most efficient of all of them. They'll use a fair bit of power when they start up, but then once they get it cooled down, they can variable energy stuff so they can be more efficient. So we have to figure those two things out still. As far as heat goes, we're coming into warm weather finally, so it's probably going to be September, even October, before we have to worry too much about heat anyways, but we'll get it done hopefully before that. But we have a little time to figure that out. And air conditioning, again, it's warming up, but we're probably a month or more away from really hot weather, so we got time to figure that out. We don't want to go with a roof mount. That's an option. I had somebody actually offer to send us a 12-volt one roof mount, but obviously we got a fiberglass roof, and even if you had a sheet metal roof, you're not just going to set an air conditioner up there. That thing weighed like 45 pounds, which is lighter than a lot of them, but some of them are closer to 100. We'd have to reinforce stuff to support this all to take the weight of the air conditioner, and I would prefer not to cut any holes in the roof on this truck if I can help it. I think we're going to be going through the wall for stuff rather than the roof. So I don't think we're going with a rooftop unit, and they're noisy. Some of these are better than others, but they're noisy because everything's right there above your head, and that's annoying. So I think we're going to try and go with a quieter solution. Anyway, these are some of the questions that have been coming up, people have been wondering about, so hope this answers all those questions. We'll be back working on the truck this week, probably tomorrow even, and starting or putting a roof rack on so we can start putting solar on, and then extending the roof rack. We can get the Starlink up there, and we'll go from there. But lots of decisions still to be made. That's where we're at and what we're thinking at this point. So hope that's interesting. If you have additional questions, feel free to leave them below, and we'll see if we can get them answered for you. We read every comment here on YouTube. We read every email we get. I cannot reply to everyone individually because we just get too many, which is a great problem. But we love hearing feedback, so go ahead and leave them. And if you found this video interesting, here's a link to a playlist for our entire DIY box truck build process.